Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. Another week. Here we go with the Dad Up podcast. I have a phenomenal guest on today. He and I have gotten a chance to connect a little bit over social media over the last few months, and I'm really excited to have on my good friend, Travis Stoetzel. Thank you very much for joining me, brother.
Bryan, thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. I've been looking forward to this, and I'm excited to dive into who you are. Because even though, you and I have had a chance to connect a little bit over social media, I don't know a whole lot about you. So I'd like to learn a little bit more myself. So for my listeners, viewers out there that are listening, watching, tell us a little bit about Travis Stoetzel, kind of how you grew up, and then obviously how you got into the things you're doing today. And then more importantly, this is a dad podcast, so I'd like to know about your kids as well.
Right on, brother. So for me, I'm another guy just going through dad life and trying to be the best husband and uh, guy I can be. I mean, we go way back, and for me, I've always been an athlete. So I grew up in athletics, and I thank my dad for getting me into athletics. So that really started the whole, if you want it, you got to earn it in life through hard work, through commitment, through effort. And I'm just grateful to have my dad teach me that at a very young age. So got into athletics early, played football, baseball, wrestling, went on to play a little bit of football in college. uh, tried to play professionally. I did for just a little bit of time. Went to numerous combines, trying out for the NFL and different leagues. Just wasn't able to get my foot in quite as well as I wanted to. So that's when I switched over to the other side of the coin, and that was, to become a coach. Learning all this stuff, strength and conditioning wise, to build myself up. I started to apply that on athletes and to help build them up and get them into the best position possible to succeed in sports. And started had a gym for 13 years called the Forged Athlete. And that's really where the Forged Father was created, because funnily how it happened was I was working with younger athletes to begin with. That was kind of my niche. And then a lot of the parents started to ask me, hey, what do you got, for us? Do you got any type of fitness programs that we could be doing? And it just so happened that a lot of parents were obviously dads that wanted to get involved with this, who were once an athlete, but then once dad life rolled around, they kind of let that athlete side of them go away a little bit. So they wanted to get that edge back. And that's really where the Forged Father kind of was created, not only for them, but when we start to talk about balance and, doing the things that you need to do as a father, doing the things that you need to do as a husband, and then keeping yourself in check, that's really where things started to get a little bit deeper within the Forged Father, to create like a lifestyle out of it versus, you're doing great as a husband, but you're dropping the ball over here. Or yeah, you're in phenomenal shape, but you're a shitty husband and you're a shitty dad. And so really just figuring that out. I haven't figured it out completely yet. I'm still on the path, but that's really what's come over time.
And how many kids do you have? What are their ages?
So I got four daughters.
Oh,
So I got
wow.
four daughters, and we haven't officially made the announcement yet, but we got one more on the way. So my
Oh,
wife's pregnant currently. We're obviously praying for a boy, but at this point, you just pray for health is really all it is. If I get another girl, then so be it. I already know how to raise daughters somewhat, but would like to get that boy.
yeah. How old are
Yeah.
your girls?
So 8, 6, 4, and coming up on 2.
Man.
Yeah. So we
Yeah,
certainly have our hands full, man. It's
absolutely.
never a dull moment in this household when they're all here, right?
Well, first, congratulations. You haven't officially made the announcement, but you have now because I have hundreds of thousands of people that watch and listen to the
All
show.
right.
So,
Absolutely.
uh, so they're gonna find out. Well, gosh, four kids. Let me first start by saying you said something that was very interesting. You said I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm on that road of doing it. Let me tell you something, brother. I've got a 24-year-old and I've got a 21-year-old, two boys. I don't have any girls, two boys, and I still haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
So
It's part of the game.
yeah, I mess up all the time. I just try to learn from the things that I do wrong and try to course correct. So the fact that you have four girls is quite a feat that you're going through every single day. You're in the thick of things every single, and they're young. They're
Mhm.
young, so you're going through that. But first, before we dive into kind of your fatherhood journey, I want to talk about Forged Fathers because I think it's a cool platform, a cool brand, and the fact that you're coaching dads. I know a lot of dads out there, including myself, that they kind of get um, stagnant. They kind of get, I don't want to say lazy, but it's kind of how it is. They kind of get lazy in who they are. Maybe they're working a lot of hours, putting a lot of hours in at the office, and then maybe they're trying to take care of their family life too, that they just kind of let themselves go. So
Mhm.
how is the Forged Fathers coming along? I mean, what is the hope or goal behind that brand or coaching platform?
Right. So I'll just kind of share a backstory here first to kind of give you a little bit more insight on, what really kicked this off. For me, I've never fallen out of shape. Like fitness has just always been a part of who I am and my identity. Just as I spoke about being an athlete growing up, I just never let that part of me slip. And so after our first daughter was born, 8 months into it, I wasn't a present father. I wasn't a present husband. I was the grinder. I was just working my ass off in the business, building my gym, building my online coaching program. And so I was gone from 5 a.m. to, I'd come home at 5 p.m., but I still wouldn't be there. I would be on my phone, catching up with clients. And in my mind, the lie that I was telling myself was I was doing this all for my family. I was grinding and hustling. I was building this empire for them. We're going to build a new house and I'm going to give my wife and daughter all these great things. And it wasn't until we're laying in bed one night and my wife is like crying in bed. And so I reach over and I grab her shoulder. I'm thinking, well, what's going on here? Like, what happened? It couldn't be me. Long story short, we have a long, hard conversation that night, and it just stabbed me in the heart. What she said, basically said how she felt second best. She felt as if she was falling out of love with me,
Mm,
and that hurt. That scared the fuck out of me.
mm,
Like it did. Because leading up to there had been times where we had talked about it. She's like, "Hey, you need to kind of get things together. You're always so busy. You're always so busy. It's typically work over family stuff." And so I would change for a little bit, and then I'd drift back into my old patterns, my old habits, and just work, 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 work. And that night, like it really put the fear in me. And I said, "All right, I'm going to change this because everything that I am doing, I could be doing it for nothing if I lose my wife and my daughter."
mm,
So that's when I started to seek mentorship, coaching on how do I bring all this stuff together? Time management, being an actual business owner, being a present husband, being a connected father. The fitness stuff, that's easy. That's the tactics and strategies. That's the simple stuff. But how do we weave that into the chaos that is dad life and being a married man and even a businessman on top of that? It's a lot of buckets to fill. And so that really changed things. And what I've developed over time is what I call the core five. It's like daily disciplines that we call the non-negotiables. It's your fitness, it's your fuel, which is your nutrition, your frame, which is your mindset, your focus, which is really your skill set, and ability to be disciplined with your time. And then your family. It's all leading up to that present connected time with family. You get all that other stuff done, then you can really be present and in the moment. And that's really what we've, put in the effort to achieve. And so when guys come in, yeah, they're struggling with the health side of things. But then you look at these other disciplines, they're dropping the ball with focus. They're dropping the ball with their fuel. They're dropping the ball with their frame. They're having a tough time battling the mentality side of it, not motivated. Well, shit, you create motivation through movement, through being disciplined with certain things that you do every single day. And so putting all these things together with the overall arching goal of just being better connected with your family, being connected with your wife if you're married, and certainly being connected with your kids. Because as well as I do, we can get into the hustle and bustle of life and just working away. And it's like, I remember my parents, my dad, he was, to this day, he's still the hardest worker in my mind, owned his own construction company. Man, I had some years working for him, I'll tell you, right? But even as hard as he worked, he never missed a single game. He never missed a single wrestling match, nothing. Same thing with my mom. They were always there. And that's exactly who I want to be for my daughters, is I always want to be there. And I'm starting to really feel that now. My oldest, super competitive in dance. She's got a dance competition coming up this weekend, had one a couple weekends ago. And so you need to have your shit together if you're going to be at those things, but then also you're still holding it down in all other areas. And what we call ourselves inside the Forge Fathers, uncommon men. That's what we're striving to be, an uncommon men amongst common men. Common average dudes, they're going to say, yes, I am too busy. I got to put my fitness off to the side. Then they complain about how they're feeling like shit. They don't have that confidence. They don't feel connected with their wife anymore. Well, you're not putting the work in on yourself. You're coming up with bullshit lies and stories that you're telling yourself because you're busy, because you got all that. Well, guess what? We all got that. We can all be much better. And that's why I said I'm still working on this, because it's a daily thing. You just don't get there and, oh, we hit 10 years of marriage. Awesome. I don't have to, work for it anymore, so it's just a continuous process, man.
Yeah.
You know this.
Yeah, no, I do know this. And, it's something that you said there, you're talking about family. It all leads up to family. I'm a firm believer in the fact that if you have a family, meaning a partner that you're with and you have kids, family to me is the foundation of everything else. If that foundation isn't strong, then I feel that everything else will fall apart. And I think foundation is where it starts, and that is family. I'm also a firm believer in the fact that, hey, a lot of dads talk about, I'm trying to build this business. It's my legacy for my family. Well, not really. Your legacy starts in the home, not outside the home. And so your legacy is what you're building in your home. Everything else that comes with it outside of the home is just icing on the cake. So your legacy really starts within, and that leads to that foundation being your family. And if that is falling apart, you're right. It causes things around us to fall apart. That could be our fitness. That could be our business. That could be our mental health. All those other areas can fall apart. So the fact that, yes, there are dads, you talked about it. There are dads that are really struggling to find that balance. And at the end of the day, finding balance is difficult and probably unrealistic. But if you learn how to navigate through the different challenges that you face day in and day out, when it comes to your family, your business, your mental health, your fitness, if you learn to navigate those things in a way that creates structure, you can have some sense of balance with everything. For me, my older son in particular, he's like you. He's all about fitness. It seems like he's at the gym twice a day. He's constantly going to the gym. He's constantly watching what he eats. He has his various supplements and things that he takes. He is like constantly working on himself. And he does that just not for his appearance. He wants to feel good about who he is and about his
Yeah.
body, but he also works on the mental side too, because he watches a lot of motivational self-help type videos. He reads a ton of books. I mean, he's got stacks upon stacks of books in his room that he reads. So he's constantly working on the mental side of things as well. And I think that's cool because he's 24 years old. He could be doing a lot of things at 24 years old that most 24-year-olds do. Yeah. I mean, most 24. Now, don't get me wrong. He goes out and has a good time, but
Yeah.
he limits it. And because he's so, I guess, uh, absorbed into who he is and who he wants to become. He's so focused on who he wants to become that's what his drive is. And that's great. I don't discourage it. I just continue to support him. But I think for dads, we get caught, as I said earlier, we get caught in this kind of this rut of trying to make everything work. But while we're doing that, we kind of forget about who we are and our own health, not only mentally, but physically, our own health. And that can take a toll because, as you know, we don't get any younger, we get older, and time does affect our physical being and our mental being, and it can impact us dramatically. I've been an avid runner for many, many, many years. I was in the Marines and I hated physical fitness, and we had to do that in the Marine Corps. I hated it. When I got out, started having kids, I realized I need to start taking care of myself a little bit better. And so I got into running, and I've ran marathons and all that kind of stuff. But this year, I've really taken a look at who I am as a person in all aspects of my life. And fitness, my health has really kind of been my focal point for this year. And I've got a goal set up that I'm going to work out every single day this year to see if I can do it. It's a far-reaching goal, but I have that goal. I mean, I even have a medical procedure I have to do in March or at the end of March or at the end of April, excuse me, that may take me out of my daily routines because I've been working out now every single day. Today will be day 51. So that may set me back, but I'm committed to, even that day that I have to have that in-out procedure done, I am committed to at least going for a walk for 15 minutes to at least keep that workout up. But the reason I'm doing it is to ingrain in myself, in my head, building that habit of keeping myself in shape and making myself want to work out. So I'm trying to ingrain it or instill it inside of me. And that's why I've made that goal. So far, I've been doing it. So that's great. But there's a lot of dads that really struggle with that. And I know for you, like you said, you've been doing it your whole life. So it's just kind of, it's who you are. You won't go without getting a workout in just because it's ingrained in you. Right. A lot of dads fail with that, especially when they start getting into the older years. They're a little bit more tired. They have a lot more on their plate, a lot more stresses they're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So for dads that come to you and say, "Hey, Travis, I know you've got this program, and I don't know if it's right for me or not, but I'm really struggling in this area, and I'm just not feeling it." What kind of advice would you give to dads that are going through that struggle?
Right. So the first step before anything else is we need to take a look at what the hell's going on inside here. So our first step, we call it owning up to the truth. So it's an exercise that we go through, and it's one of the hardest things that a lot of us go through because of ego, right? Because of these certain things that we've kind of attached ourselves to in life. And that's the cleaners right there. So hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
But so we start off with owning up to the ugly truth. And because a lot of times an individual's identity it's shifted. And so what you were saying is, guys get married, they have kids, and they start to take on this identity of, well, I'm not supposed to be in shape anymore. I'm a dad bod, all this stuff. And so their habits, their behaviors, their patterns in life start to align with this identity that they have for themselves. Like I've had conversations with dads who have come to me, ex D1, football stud, just he'll send me pictures. This is what I used to look like. I'll never look like that again. Right there, he's setting himself up for failure. Basically just told yourself that you'll never be there again. Who says that that's true? That's a story that you're coming up with based off of the identity that you currently have right now. And so we own up to this ugly truth, because what we need to happen is identity elevation is what it is what needs to happen, because the actions, the habits, the routines, the standards that you set for yourself they need to be matched up with that identity. And so for a guy to make a change, that's like the first step. He's got to own up to that ugly truth, break himself completely down to the core. What are the beliefs that you have about yourself right now? What are the stories? What are those things that are mentally blocking us from achieving the success that we really, really want? Too busy, I call bullshit. I know some pretty busy dads that are absolutely dominating it, And so for a guy to change, that's the first step. He's got to check himself. And then we start building things out from there to start rewiring what the heck's going on up here.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it does start with that what I call self-belief. You're dealing with like you said, the stories that you've convinced or telling yourself is really going to drive how you respond. And if you're telling yourself, I'll give you an example. I hear dads all the time from my side of things. I hear dads all the time say, well, it's hard for me to commit to that, Bryan, because I have to take my kid to practice, or I have to go here with the wife. No, you don't have to do those things. You get to do those things. There's a difference. Once you tell yourself, I get to do these things, then it changes your perspective on how you look at that activity or that event. So it's the same type of thing when you're dealing with your fitness. Like, I've committed to this goal of working out every single day this year. I don't have to do those things. I get to do those things. The ability for me to do those things is what I'm looking forward to. I have the ability to get to do those things and to help me be better as a dad and as a husband and my health overall. So, I mean, I'm not a young guy. I'm 50 years old. So the fact that I can still do these things is great. The fact that I can still go for a 4, 5, 6 mile run is phenomenal at 50 years old. So I get to do these things. I have the ability to do these things, and I'm able to do these things. So I should take advantage of it. For dads that are struggling like that, it starts with your mindset. If your mindset's not right, it's going to be very hard to coach anybody into believing that they can achieve or be somebody that they used to be, like you talked about in their younger years. So that's great. I think that's a perfect starting point when you're talking to dads in particular, because like I said, we carry a lot of weight on our shoulders. We have a lot of stresses in our lives, and dads tend to carry that and take that on, but then forget about who they are. I tell dads all the time, if your fuel tank is empty at the end of the day, when you come home and you walk through that door and your fuel tank is empty, it's going to be very difficult for you to step up as a husband or as a dad. So you need to make sure
that's when the real game starts. So you mentioned that when the fuel tank's empty, you got to look at it from a different point of view. You see where most guys go, average guys, common guys, they're going to go and they're going to play the poor me card. They're going to assume the role of victim. And then all these stories start to pop up inside their head. Like, man, I've put in so much work today, this and this and this, I deserve a break. And that's ultimately what pulls them down versus I like to see it as an opportunity. It's just the athlete in me. You see these things, you're tired. Okay, well, here's your opportunity. Here's your opportunity to prove who you really are. Are you just going to give in to the fatigue? Are you going to give in to, just not being in that state that you want to be? And there's the quote. We all know the quote, right? Fatigue makes cowards of us all. I don't believe in that. I believe fatigue makes cowards out of the uncommitted, because the committed are going to find a way to get it done. They don't care. They don't care if they're tired. Think about the races that you've done. The marathons. You're getting down to the end. There's and I'll just say this: endurance sports. Like, I was always like the power athlete, like football and short sprints. Over the years, I've done a couple ultras, Spartan ultra races, so 30 plus races. And I'll tell you, man, you get to a certain point, it's mental. Physically, you're fucked. You're done. You don't have anything left. And so common people, yeah, they're gonna quit at that point. But continuing on forward, that's the best, because you get to see who the hell you really are. The real you gets exposed at that point. And so, yeah, if you come home and you're tapped out, that's where you really get to be a father. That's where you really get to be a husband. Or you can settle in what most do, and that's where they drop the ball. So you got to see it for an opportunity. And it kind of goes back to what you're saying. It's like, you have to do this, you have to do that. Sure, you don't have to do anything, but you get to. And the fact that you get to is it's an opportunity, full on opportunity. The light just came on.
Yeah.
It just got right in.
No, absolutely. I think that, we have to find a way as fathers to tap into that inner core within us to really pull something of greatness out of us.
Yes.
And I think, for me, I have long days and I want to work out, get my workout in. I go at 4:00 in the morning. So yeah, I may be losing a little bit of extra sleep, but because I'm committed to doing this and achieving this, not for anybody else, I'm doing it for myself. I'm willing to make that sacrifice. So yeah, when that alarm goes off, I'm thinking, obviously my head's playing mind games on me.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you don't have to get out of bed
Every day.
You don't have to. You could sleep an extra half an hour. You could sleep an extra hour, maybe just get your workout in tonight. That goes through my head every single second that I wake up. Every single day, it goes through my head. And it's a willpower that you have to force yourself to do it. And so, yeah, I do. I get up every single morning and go do it because I got to get it done. And then the cool thing is, once you're up, like for me, when I'm up and out of bed and getting ready, I'm on there. It's like, okay, the switch is on. All right, now I'm ready to roll.
Yeah.
And then when you're done, it's like, okay, now I can focus on the rest of my day. I don't have to worry about anything else. I've got my health in check because I did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Now I can focus on everything else. And I think for dads that are finding themselves at a point where, when you're driving home from the office and you've just had the worst day on earth, and the last thing you want to do is come home and have to deal with issues in the house that may be going on, hectic kids. I understand we all have those days that we just don't want to do it, but you got to dig a little bit deeper because your family's depending on you. And that's, as I said in the beginning, that's where your legacy starts. Your family's depending on you. If you're committed to being a dad, then you have to be willing to sacrifice areas within yourself to be that committed dad. And it takes a lot. I coached sports for over 20 years. From the age my boys were 4 years old all the way up through high school, I coached sports. And even after my boys were off in college, I was still coaching high school sports. And I had to find that commitment. I enjoyed it, but there were days I didn't want to go coach. There were days I was worn out at the end of the day. And the last thing I wanted to do was step onto a basketball court and coach. But because I was committed to it, I had to find that willpower within me. And it's the same thing I told my guys before, when we're playing in a game and we're in the fourth quarter and they're just spent. I mean, they are just dying. I have to tell them, listen, I know you're tired, but you got to dig deep. You got to find out who you are really and dig deep within yourself to pull that animal out of yourself for 8 more minutes. That's it. 8 more minutes. If you can do that, then we can achieve what we need to achieve, and that's win the game. If you give up, that's okay, but you need to be willing to accept the loss.
Yep.
Are you willing to accept a loss? And usually it's no, we're not. Okay, then you got to dig a little bit deeper. So dads, are you willing to accept the loss of the disconnect with your family? Are you willing to accept the loss of the disconnect from your kids? Are you willing to accept the loss of maybe the separation from your spouse? If you're willing to accept that, if you're willing to have that, then accept it. You get what you deserve. But if you're not willing to accept that, then you've got to dig a little bit deeper, and pull that dad, that husband, that leader out of you. So I think that's awesome. And I mean, you're talking about 4 girls that are young, and obviously you're an energetic guy. You are, you're in great shape, all that kind of stuff. You can keep up with them for the most part, but there's got to be days, Travis, where you're spent at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely.
And you got to come home and help the wife out with various things. You got to come home, take care of the girls. How do you do it? What do you do when you have to dig a little bit deeper? When Travis has to find that inner core and say, hey, I've got to step up here. How do you do it? And maybe that encourages dads to really find that inner core within themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Before digging into that, just connecting what you're just saying there, a good way to look at it is deciding on your difficulty, right? So using that example, getting up in the morning, first thing in the morning, time. I'd say 95% of our guys in the program, including myself, like all of our personal development, all of the stuff that we pour into ourselves is in the morning. So that means that you need to wake up earlier. That means that you have to make that hard decision first thing when that alarm's going off and you're cozy in your bed and everything's trying to keep you there in comfort. You got to make that hard decision in that moment to get up and get the day going. That really gets the frame going. That elevates the mindset because you get that first victory, get out of bed, go through your AM routine. I've been doing cold showers for over 7 years. I haven't missed a freaking day for 7 years, over 7 years. And it's that mental victory that you get right there. And so now you're filling yourself up. You're creating momentum for the day, and you carry on with your day. But if you don't do that, then you're deciding on having the difficulty of regret later, typically, or the difficulty of just not being where you want to be. So you continue to put that off. You don't want to work out in the morning because it's too early. Well, then you got to deal with the difficulty of being out of shape. You got to deal with the difficulty of not having the health that you want, not having the confidence that you want. So there's always a choice to be made. And it's going to be difficult either way. And so you bring up, end of a long day. There's plenty of them. Tapped out. How do I get through that? Perspective shift. I'm in a moment right now. I'm in a moment. I can play victim and I can just be in a negative state and just drag myself through it. Or I can see it for what it is. And it's an opportunity where I just got to dig a little bit deeper and show up for my girls. I got to be there. And there's days where it's not worked out. You let the emotions get the best of you and you react in certain situations versus respond and remaining cool under the pressure. But I'd say the biggest thing to focus in on is just patience, being aware in those situations, because when you get fatigued and you're tapped out, you're just so emotional and you react to everything. But when you've put in the work on yourself and you've done all those difficult things to fill up your bucket, you're going to have just a little bit of extra bit left to, keep your cool in those situations. So that's really kind of how I deal with it, is just patience. It's just being aware in the moment. Early on, when being a dad, I'd react quite a bit. I'd raise my voice to my wife. I'd raise my voice to my daughters. And it was our 6-year-old when she was really young. She's the ornery one. She's the one that will do things. She knows you're looking at her, and she still has this shit-eating grin on her face, and she's still going to do it anyways. But I can't remember exactly what she did, but she was definitely in the wrong. But I got to remember, she's a 2-year-old child, and I'm a grown adult. I don't need to be raising my voice at her like that to get the look that I got from her after that. I'll never forget that. So now it's, I don't raise my voice. There's times where I'll be on the edge. I'm like, all right, catch yourself. That's awareness. That's really awareness in the moment. You have control over your attitude, therefore your actions. And it's really applicable to everything, right? Should I go do this workout? I'm really not feeling it. I'm aware though, I'm in this moment right now. I can control my attitude. Therefore, I'll control my actions, and I'll go forth and do the thing that I need to do, not the thing that I necessarily want to do. I'll go do the thing that I need to do. Right. So for me, that's been the biggest kind of system that I've used for controlling situations, because things get pretty crazy. I'll share it on social media sometimes, and our girls, for whatever reason, I don't know if your boys were like this when they were younger, but for us, our routine, 7:30, 7:45, it's usually, okay, we're going to start migrating upstairs, getting them ready for bed. But man, it's like 7:20 hits and it's like a freaking zoo. Oh, now they want to get up and start running around the house and playing tag and jumping off the couch and being crazy. But, it's the fun of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I think everybody goes through that, but you said something interesting there where you're talking about it's all about your perspective. And one of the things that I like to tell dads is I've had dads ask me, listen, there are days where I'm just, like you said, tapped out. I'm just tapped out. And I know I'm on my way home and I'm already dreading walking in the door just because of the dealings or having to handle situations within the house. And I'm so tapped out that I don't think I have it in me to do it. And I'm afraid I'm going to be impatient with my family. So how do I get over that? And you said it, it's all about perspective. So what I like to encourage dads is, listen, if you're driving home and you're already stressed about walking in the house and having to be 100% all in for the family when you're tapped out, take a moment and go for a little extra drive. Even if it's, 15 minutes, just take an extra drive and focus on changing your perspective or changing your mindset, getting your mindset right. I think that little extra drive helps you to just kind of relax, decompress a little bit from the day, the stresses that you had during the day, to get you ready to come into the house and be 100% committed to your family. So dads, if you're out there, listen, even moms too. I've had moms on my show. So even moms too, if you're coming home from the office and you have to deal with things within the home and be 100% all in and you're just tapped out, take an extra 15 minutes, go for an extra little drive, listen to some good music if you want quiet and you just want to think and kind of meditate while you're driving with your eyes open, obviously meditate while you're driving to just kind of decompress. I encourage you to do that because it'll help to essentially refuel you and change your mindset to get your mindset right before you walk in your door. Because as parents, the last thing we want to do is be short with our kids when we know that it's really not necessary. There have been many moments that I do it. I still do it. I did it just a couple weekends back with my younger son. He was home from college and I was short with him. And because my boys are older, they're and because they understand that they can talk to me whenever they're struggling with something, my older son called me out on it. He said, "Hey, dude," I even made a post about it because I felt really bad about it, but I was short with my son. And he said, "Hey," he literally said to me, "Hey, dude, you don't need to talk to me that way. I just asked you a question. You don't need to, what is your deal?" I mean, he literally said that to me and I had to check myself. I went, wow, he just called me out on my BS. He just called me out on it. And I had to apologize. That's the other key thing is if you mess up, you got to understand, you have to learn, you got to learn to apologize. So I had to go to him and go, "Hey, I'm sorry, kid. I messed up. I have been impatient. I have been short and I was short with you, and I'm wrong. I was wrong. So
Mhm.
I'm going to work for the rest of this weekend. I'm going to work at not doing that and not being that way. So I apologize. And he said, "Oh, that's good." And he
Yeah.
gave me a hug, and
Ownership.
we were good, you know? So you have to be willing to maybe take that extra drive and just get your head right before you're ready to tackle it. Because listen,
Yeah.
as I said in the very beginning, I said it a couple of times, your legacy's in your home. They're relying on you,
Yep.
and you have to be willing to step up. So let me
Yeah.
ask you one last question before I let you go.
Sure.
What dads, we face challenges all the time, and we've talked about perspective and getting our head right and all that. But what challenges are you facing right now, Travis, that you're having to navigate through because you're trying to run a business, trying to run a brand, you've got a house full of girls, and I mean, and one on the way, but you got a house full of girls, and there's got to be challenges that you're facing yourself. What
Oh,
are those?
absolutely. Absolutely. And for me, I know if I fall off the path, I don't do the work that I need to do, which is, again, it's all every morning. There's a specific routine set of actions that I go through to fill my cup. So I'm ready to rock and roll for the day, right? So that I haven't missed. I have not missed that for years. I can't even tell you how long it's been because I know what happens when I fall off track. And I look at it as this is we're setting an example. You know, our kids are watching us and we're not going to be perfect, but we got to be committed to just progress forward and being that man. And in my situation, I'm the man that I want them to date and marry someday. I'm setting that example. And so how I treat their mother, how I treat them is setting the tone for that years down the road. So I keep that in mind a lot. Sometimes I feel a little bit alienated, and you might have seen my buddy behind me, wherever he is, Kratos, my dog. He's our boxer. He's the only other male in the house with me. So we're greatly outnumbered. So I guess the challenge that I feel with that sometimes, and other girl dads might feel this too, is sometimes we're just a little bit alienated. You know, all the girls are kind of doing their thing, and the girls are kind of gravitated towards mom a little bit more, but that's where we just we just connect better. We just connect better, and that's my main focus typically is just connect with them better, let them know, how much I love them and how pretty they look, and it just that those tiny little things go a long way. So,
Yeah,
but it's
that's
certainly
awesome.
not easy. That is for sure. It's
Yeah.
certainly there. There
I,
are great days, never bad days, but not so great days, right?
yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, listen, we're all going to have challenges. Like I said, I face challenges constantly, even, my oldest 24, even 24 years later, I'm still facing challenges, but,
Yeah.
it's part of the journey. And I like to say it's part of the enjoyment of being a father. Those challenges, because it really tests who you are as a dad. So when you're facing those challenges, accept it as a test. Are you going to pass? Or are you going to fail? And if you
Yeah.
fail, that's okay, but own it. If you don't own it, then we have a problem. But if you own it and learn from it, then that way, when the test comes around again, you've got a makeup chance to pass
Yeah.
that test this time. So that's so good to hear. Travis, where can my viewers, listeners, where's the best place for them to find you? Any of that kind of stuff that you want to set?
My handle for pretty much everything is The Forged Father. So you can find me on Instagram, always posting up content there. I'm on Facebook. But yeah, certainly reach out if you have any questions about anything. We're all on this path together, man. So that's I think the biggest piece of advice I'd give is seek connection with other men that are going through the same thing as you are. If you try to be that lone wolf, it is going to be a long, hard battle, my man. And I figured that early on in my business career, just trying to figure things out on my own with business, starting my gym. And it wasn't until I broke down and, spent a little money on my personal development with coaching. But that literally changed the trajectory of my life. I mean, I wouldn't be here today having this conversation and had I not done that years ago. But yeah, the Forge Father on all social media platforms, and yeah, destroydadbod.com is kind of the main site if you're looking for a website. So
Awesome. Well, thank you. Travis, thank you for our connection. I'm looking forward to getting a chance to become better friends with you, but I appreciate everything that you're doing. Keep up the great work. Congratulations again on the soon to be new baby. Hopefully if it's a boy, great. But if not, you're going to have your hands full even more, but that's okay. But I appreciate you being on, brother. I really do. And I look forward to continuing our friendship.
absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. Great conversation.
Awesome. Well, listen, everybody, this has been another awesome episode of Dad Up with my good friend, Travis Stoetzel. If you guys want to check out what he's doing, make sure you guys check out Forged Fathers. I'll put all the links in the show notes. But thank you again to my good friend Travis for being on. And as always, if you have not subscribed yet to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at Dad Up Podcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.